Welcome back. We just got to the point where we had that initial buyer consultation meeting. We have the MLS search set up. You've been looking for the perfect home with your set of buyers or your individual buyer, and they just contacted you about starting to see homes. So now that you know they're want to move forward with actually looking at properties in person, what do you do from here?
Yeah, so once you get a request, your client requests you see a property. If they request one, recommend seeing more than one, even if that one property is the one they want to see. You never want to just show your client one property, that one being the perfect property, and them having nothing to relate that property to or compare that property to any other property. So I've done that before, and I've seen clients second guess their offers and their purchase because they just haven't experienced other properties. So see multiple properties and try to be efficient with while seeing those properties.
Absolutely. So you're at a point where they're ready to move forward, and so you need to do the scheduling. How are you going to go about that? Can you do it on MLS? Do you have to contact the other agents? What is that process like?
Yeah, great question. Let me share my screen here. Here we go. So here you have MLS, and I'm just in a client's profile. So if they say they want to see 4 properties, let's just say they want to see these first 4 properties, right? And you want to schedule those 4 properties, and you've already set up a specific time for your client that works for them. There's an efficient way to do it, which is just click here on MLS, and some MLSs will be a little bit different, but a lot of them have this feature. You can click directions here, and then I am signed out. So I'll have to sign back in, and it automatically populates here. So then it pulls up the map here, and you can move these around. So 59 Glensden Lane is the first place. Then the next closest place we can see is 23 Plain Road. We'll move that up here. And then we have 304 North Street and 56 Highland Street. And now you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're banging these showings out. You're being super efficient because you're driving 7.5 miles versus driving back and forth. And then when I schedule showings, typically depending on the house or the condo or multifamily, you need about 15, 20 minutes per property. Also depends on the client, how long they take in a property, but 15 minutes in, and then obviously you time out, how long you need to travel, give it space at 20 minutes apart. And then you can go into the MLS and you can start recording or start emailing the leads. Okay.
So you mentioned something before, and I think it's really important. We don't like to dictate, I've heard some agents say this, but they like to use a strategy of showing, a really bad rundown home followed by, a nice home that's been recently renovated. And they do that because they think it's going to show the disparity between a really bad home and a really good home. And it's going to get their client to submit an offer on that second home because they think it's so much better than the first one. And, I know we both totally disagree with this strategy. What we want to do is we want to show that variety, like you mentioned, of homes. And we want to let them come to the conclusion of what's right for them long term and where they want to live. There's no strategy other than being efficient with, your routing and how you're driving to these homes and scheduling them. We are not trying to get them to buy faster than they feel comfortable with. It's not a realistic strategy. It's not a good strategy for.
Yeah, correct. When you're in sales up to that buyer consultation meeting. After the buyer consultation meeting and they've already bought you, then you help them buy the house at their own pace, and you don't push one property over the other. You just let them tell you what house they like, and then you help them acquire it. In fact, I read a recent study, like one of the most important things for first-time home buyers and home buyers in general was the agent pointed out issues before they put in an offer on properties, and clients really appreciate that. So that's critical. It's not, it's not about, oh, here's why you need to buy the house. That's the listing agent's job, and to sell the house that they're representing the seller and sell that house. But as a buyer, you just go through and you tour the homes that they want to see.
Great point. I mean, you're their fiduciary. You are there to look out for their best interests. You're not there to get them to buy a home as quickly as possible. That is not why we're in business. That's not why we represent clients. And so
Correct.
you mentioned, some of the aspects and what you should be doing when you actually get to these properties and you start your walkthroughs. So you arrive at the property with your client. Walk us through what you're looking for when you go through the home. When you meet with the listing agent is there, are there questions you ask them? What is that process like when you're actually touring a home?
Yeah, so every home is a little bit different, and every client is a little bit different. But in general, I'm typically listening for keys for my clients. Sometimes a walkthrough is going to be quiet, and you don't need to fill the air and talk about, hey, here's the kitchen, right? They can see that it's the kitchen. What they want to hear you talk about is, again, potential issues with the property. You can talk about the heating system, how it's heated, how the house operates. Is it oil or gas or electric? How old is the heating system? The windows, the roof, the electric, the plumbing, all these sort of things that more normal buyers really don't know much about. They like to hear you talk about it. And then I let my clients, or I'll ask them questions about, what do you think about the layout? What do you think about these finishes? That way you get an understanding and listen to what they actually like cosmetically, because people like different things. So you're not going to recommend a house based because it has quartz countertops over granite. Some people might like granite over quartz, for example. So it's really pointing out issues, listening to them, and then if the agent is there and it's not on a lockbox, then you ask them as many questions as you can to get more information on the property. There'll be questions that they have, maybe about a lot line or septic system or stuff that might not be on the listing that you don't know, that you can just direct those questions right to the listing agent.
Absolutely. And I think two things are so important when you're showing a property. It's preparation is key. The worst thing is if you're an agent and you're, going into a property and you haven't even reviewed the MLS list sheet and you know nothing about that home. You don't know the layout. You don't know the details of, like you just mentioned, the heating systems and some of these important aspects, and you're just learning on the fly. That's not how it should go. You should do your homework in advance. If you're able to talk to the listing agent in advance of the showing, do that. See what good information you can dig up that you can provide to your clients when you're going through the property.
Yeah.
And like you said too, the whole point of a showing is you're learning more about your clients every time you have that type of interaction. You're listening to what they're saying. You know that if they like granite countertops better than quartz, then going forward, if they don't move forward with that property, that's something you're going to be looking for. So you are just absorbing all of this information about them. You're learning about them, and that's just going to help you in the future find that perfect property for them.
Totally. And one more thing to add on listening to what they have to say. I had a client where their past house, their AC system was super loud, and that was a huge pain point for them. So in every house we went to, I went and turned on the heat or the HVAC system, depending the time of year, and made sure we noted that specific pain point wasn't an issue in that property. And again, that just helped with the trust and the relationship with my client, because I listened to them and we made sure we checked that every time.
That's such a good example. Every client is different. Everybody cares about different things. That might be a total non-factor to somebody that hasn't had an HVAC issue before, but that's a fantastic example. It really shows that you need to know each person individually and their likes and dislikes to be able to really get them the perfect place.
Absolutely.
And so as we transition into our next video segment, we're going to start getting into what is the right way to put in a competitive offer. And so we've now seen properties with our clients. We've gone through the process of finding them a home that they want to move forward with. And now it's all about how to write up that offer. So it's going to be the most competitive in the seller's eyes, and they're going to get selected to be able to move forward with the purchase of that property. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you shortly. Thanks, Chris.